I'm Danny Nix with Classic Performance Products. Today I have in front of us our 67-72 Ford F100 frame shortening kit. This is going to help us convert the 71 long bed behind us into a short bed. We're going to be installing a step side bed we've got from Long Motor Company, LMC. They also make that available in a fleet side. It's a pretty straightforward kit. There's a couple of large templates. The kit's got a template that's going to go on the outside of the frame rails to start with. There's some pre-existing holes that it's going to line up on the frame with the template. Put a couple of screws in to get yourself started. Then we're going to drill a bunch of holes following the template into the frame. Then it's got some cut lines, going to help us to know where to cut the frame to make the wheelbase correction the right way. After we've cut the frame, we're going to reuse the center portion of this template, and it's going to show us how to cut the rear of the frame back by the rear bumper. It's also a guide for how we're going to drill the new bumper mounting bolt holes for the chassis. Internally, we've got the 1/4-inch steel brackets that are going to go inside the frame rails. They go inside the seat channel. We've pre-welded the top portion of this so that you don't have to do any upside down welding. We do recommend welding this when you're done bolting it together. It's an added layer of safety. The nice thing is you can bolt all this in and then drive it to a welding facility that's near you without fear that the thing is going to fall apart in the meantime. That was a brief overview of the kit. Now we'll walk you through step by step and show you exactly how this goes together. So as you can see, the bed's already off the truck, and we've already started by removing some of the plumbing and wiring and other things that might be in our way so we can get ready to install the template. The template's pretty straightforward. It's going to slide right over the frame rails. It's going to align with some pre-existing holes that are in the frame, and then we just start drilling and then cutting. So we're going to start by drilling these holes. Gary's drilling holes on the outside of the frame first. As we drill each hole, we can put a nut and a bolt in it. The template can be cinched up tight to the outside of the frame rail, and that'll just help to hold everything in place later when we start cutting. We won't have to worry about either side shifting because it'll be bolted together. The templates have been used. We've drilled all the holes in the frame. We bolted the template in as we went, made sure all the bolt holes are there. We didn't skip anything got missed. This is the bracket that's going to go in next after the cuts are made. You can kind of see how the shape of this is following the frame and where this is all going to land. The most difficult set of holes in the whole thing was really under the cab. In our case, we removed the cab bolts at the back of the cab and at the firewall. We loosened the two in the front on the core support, and we just used a couple of floor jacks to give us some room to get a drill in here. There's other ways you can get this hole. You may even be able to come up from the inside with a 90-degree drill bit. I recommend a 90-degree drill motor and a short stub length drill to get in here. It's kind of a tight spot, but that's the worst of the whole job. I almost forgot to mention this is really a good opportunity to go in here and remove some other things that you're not going to need. In this case, there's a carrier bearing mount in here for a 2-piece dry shaft. When this becomes a short wheelbase, we don't need that. This is a good opportunity for you to go and remove anything like that you're going to run across that you just don't need anymore. You've got the space opened up. It's easier to do it now. So the next thing we're going to do is put some jack stands underneath the frame before we start cutting, so the frame doesn't move, and once we make the cut, we can roll out the back half of the frame. And then after the cut, when we can roll the back half back into place, and the front will be at the right height to just make this go together a little bit easier. We're going to start cutting this with a cutoff wheel. Maybe we switch to a Sawzall. We're going to see how that works out. This is the first time we've done a 3/4 ton frame. They're slightly thicker, so we'll see how the cut goes. I just finished cleaning up all the paint and grime and rust off the edges of the frame. There's going to be some welding when we're done and just getting the frame ready to go so that the weld works better. We just cleaned off all the rust. I also cleaned the inside of the frame, not necessarily that we're going to weld on it, but we're welding so close to it that would also be burning off and then contaminate the weld also. So just clean both sides all the way around the seams. Luis and Gary are just finishing up taking off the templates from the frame now that the cutting has been done, and I'm going to go clean up that side of the frame as well. So right now I'm going to loosely attach the brackets that go into the frame. A couple of screws, a couple of threads in each. And then from there, we're gonna go ahead and slide the rear section of the frame in and double check our cut, just to make sure we didn't leave too much metal on the frame. If we do, what'll happen is the two sides are gonna bump into each other and the bolt pattern won't line up. That's maybe because our blade was too thin or the cut walked while Gary was making the cut. Hopefully we got a small gap, but this is just kind of a quick test fit to see if we need to make any adjustments on just trimming off a little bit more metal on either side of the chassis. At this point, looks like we cut enough of the frame that we had a small gap, about a 1/16 on both sides. So we're gonna go ahead and start putting all the bolts in. Again, everything's just loose right now. Gary and Luis are finishing installing all the bolts on the chassis and the bracket right now. What we came across was on some of these factory holes that are on the chassis and our bracket, one side lined up really good on the top as an example, on the other side not so good on the top, but on the bottom really well, and the other side not so well. So what we're seeing are differences really in how the frame rails were made. The left and right side frame rails are made slightly different. No big deal. We're just chasing the holes with a drill bit. We can die grinder in there and we can just cut out a little bit of metal until we match up the original holes again so that the bed will fit back on like it's supposed to. We got the brackets bolted in at the front of the frame, so all that's left to do is to weld it on down onto the chassis, the bracket, the chassis together. Okay, so we're going to use the same template. This is the center section of what we cut off earlier when we did the front part of the chassis. It's going to lay up on the frame. You really can't put this on backwards. It's going to pick up the original holes of the bed and the original bumper holes. So we're going to put a couple of screws in it just to hold it in place to start. And then I'm going to mark it where we're going to make the cut and drill the holes for the bed and the bumper.
Nice.
So we got the frame all shortened up. This is now a short bed frame. We used the templates to do the rear, got the bumper mounts and the rear of the bed. Templates guided us on the front, so there's no question on the wheelbase. Everything is going to be exactly where it needs to be. Gary just finished welding the brackets into the frame for some reinforcement. Those welds look beautiful. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to throw on a fleet side bed so you can see what that looks like, and then we're going to put on a step side bed just to give you a chance to see how it's going to go on your own truck. There you go, better part of a day. It went from a long bed to a short bed. Got the frame pieces welded back together. We got that short box up there, the step side from LMC. I gotta say that thing looks great. For more information on how to get a hold of one of these for yourself, reach out to us on the web at classicperform.com or call us at 714-522-2000.